So you said, what was it, 14 years you've been with Rend? 12 years?
Well, I mean, really, like since 2003.
Okay.
So before Rend was even like anything to do with music, we were a Bible study, and that was when I got involved in it in 2003.
Okay.
So, and then it kind of spiraled from there because that Bible study put together a selection of songs, like EPs, as kind of almost like a parting gift. So everybody was kind of moving away and going to university and stuff. And so we decided, okay, well, we've been on a bit of a journey and a lot of us are artists, so we might as well make something.
Yeah.
And we must have pressed like 100 EPs. It's nothing more than that. But Chris Tomlin and Martin Smith had two of them. And so...
those are kind of two pretty big names there.
Well, right. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So,
how did that even happen? When you say Chris Tomlin and Martin Smith had them, like, what does that even mean?
there is a...
Like, you mail it to them? Like, what...
Well, we didn't. So a guy called Les Moyer, who has been kind of hovering around the Christian music scene forever.
I know Les, yeah.
He was sort of passing them out. This is like pre us being signed by Kingsway or anything. So he was just out there. I don't know. He just felt like there was something on it. So he gave one to Martin Smith, who then gave one to Chris Tomlin. And then Chris Tomlin actually decided to invite us on tour because Matt Maher pulled out at the last minute, and we were kind of the last thing he was listening to. He's just like, why don't I contact these Irish guys? And so that was the first time that we ever were kind of struck with the idea of, could we be a band?
Yeah.
Could we go and do this tour? So we got invited on that And If Our God Is For Us tour. So this massive arena tour, and we aren't even a band. Let me explain that. We're like masquerading as a band in the States. And yet, because we were on the Tomlin tour, like kind of the industry felt like they've maybe missed something. And so they all felt like they were on the back foot and like they have missed this great catch. So we got management and booking like really quickly. And so visas and everything came through, and we've stayed ever since.
So you're the imposters of Christian music.
100%. It's not even a syndrome for us. It's just the reality. Yeah.
I love that. Les Moore, the godfather of European Christian music, right?
He really is, and a fine bassist as well.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, he started in recording music.
Yeah, he's
got his
killer.
start, so.
He's the only person I know who like talks in fractions of dBs in mastering, which I don't understand anyway. I always just get it back from mastering. I'm like, yep, good, loud.
Loud.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we should actually introduce. We've been having fun. So, hey, Joshua Swanson, the worship leader, privileged to sit with Chris Llewellyn to talk about some of his new music and his heart and his story. So thanks, man, for hanging with us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I really loved your podcast that you did for us, the Devotional. Yeah. I thought that was really special. I've quoted that line you said, I've realized I'm more of a doubting Thomas than a Peter. I've quoted that several times because I was like, oh, yeah, that was a little close to home.
Yeah.
That was kind of me too.
I think maybe we've all felt like that at some season. Actually, I don't know if we all feel like a Peter.
Yeah.
He has a lot of confidence.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
Like,
he's a pretty big character.
Yeah, he's right like a third of the time. Yeah. But he goes in with the confidence of somebody who has a better track record.
That's the truth. How long have you been ruminating on these songs? Has this been like you just sat in a room and a month later you had an album, or you've been writing these songs for a long time, or how did you get here?
You know, I've probably been writing them in the background of Rend stuff. I'm more like, some of them just didn't make the filter, where it was like, oh gosh, that's a weird song. It doesn't kind of jive with the confetti cannon vibe that we have. And so some of them just kind of were like, well, that's an oddity. I'll just keep that away over there. And then some of them are, you know, in the last couple of years, really more responding to things that are more current than that. But yeah, it's one of those things. I'm really glad that I have this outlet now. I think it's given me maybe a healthier perspective that not everything needs to be forced through the lens of congregational worship all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and writing songs that aren't like that can be just as helpful.
So, you have been with Rend a long time, and it's a very fascinating story how that all came together. So you've been thinking of music in terms of the band. So I'm assuming there was kind of this like individual, like, hey, I've got some things I might want to say myself that evolved. And is that how we got to this album, or how did we get here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for years singing all these big anthems and trying to come up with these songs that kind of are universal and are able to be sung by people across the entire planet. That's been the focus for a really long time. And there is something so special about that. I would never really want to give that up. There's something amazing about hearing a lot of people on the same exact page, just being able to lift up the same song. But on the other hand, that isn't really, it isn't the full record of even the songs that we have in the Bible. Like the Psalms don't all look like that. Some of them do. You can see that real congregationality in some of them. You know, there's almost call and response sections in some of them where you can see how they were supposed to be used. But at other times, you just see people bringing these incredibly personal things. And I wonder if in the search to find a universal song, what we've done is we've sang things that are not specific enough to connect to anybody very deeply, but to everybody kind of in a shallow way. Maybe we need two kinds of songs.
Right. So I just want to point out, you called your band member shallow. So that's
right.
That's what we'll highlight here.
Well, it's all my fault.
No, I get what you mean, though. To your point, big anthemic music, party time, celebrating Jesus, huge settings. Like that's what Rend is, which is incredibly joyful, which is also an experience that we don't really have. I mean, when you guys hit the scene, like there's not really a lot of folks still like you guys. So I understand that you're saying from your perspective, maybe you wanted to express something a little bit different.
Well, absolutely. I mean, actually the reason why Rend is so joy focused isn't so much that we are very naturally gravitating towards that, but more that it's always been the thing that we've needed. You know, I kind of always had a very introspective, maybe like kind of depressive personality. That's my natural orientation, is to go that direction. And so a lot of what I've done in Rend Collective is try to combat that. And I think there's some health to that. There are times when you got to challenge that kind of darkness in yourself and try to fight for a bit of light in there. But there are also times to explore it. And I think, you know, moving from 2020, which was a difficult year for everybody, yet it was also the year that my son got diagnosed. He's like quite profoundly autistic, and that had a massive impact. And I think what I realized was now it's starting to close in to the point where trying to fight back against this and pretend like this darkness, this difficulty, this doubt doesn't exist, that's not working for me anymore. I think I need to face up to it fully and try to move through it rather than move around it. And so that's really what this record is. It's just trying to face up to the reality that things get really hard and you don't always have a complete certainty in what God's doing in your life. And yet there's still a worship song in those moments, which is crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all the different colors of our faith, right? I mean, all the different aspects as we grow in our faith and as we grow in our experiences, right?
Totally. I mean, when you start reading the Bible and noticing how much we get out our highlighter pen, it's like a good 2/3 of the Bible is like Lamentations. Psalms, again, more than half of them are laments. Jeremiah, it's like nearly all lament. Ecclesiastes, it's like, what is life? You know, it isn't all stuff for like, you know, the Sunday school or youth room. You can't just translate it that way. It really is stuff that looks at the harsh realities of life, and a lot of the loose threads just kind of are left hanging there sometimes. And I guess I think that's what the authors of Scripture meant by what it is to trust God, is actually to leave those loose threads in His hands and believe in spite of them.
Yeah, I thought Honest was probably one of the most powerful songs I've heard in a long time, just given the story. I mean, musically, it's a beautiful song. Really fun to see with all the buttons and all the things. Like, that's a lot of, it just seems like a lot of work, but
it is a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. But the final product is worth it. And
a lot of counting.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't think of that.
That's what it is. If you get one of those loops wrong and you're paying for it, that's it. Everything is off rails. So.
That's all that stuff. But then, of course, the underlying, like, what it's about with I'm assuming it's about your son and about that discovery and about that process of like starting to doubt your faith or you doubt God. I mean, am I right? Or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was in that environment. I think once you start losing that full confidence in like the reliability of God to do everything exactly the way you would like Him to do it, once you start realizing that is not something that is going to happen all the time, it does start a bit of a spiral. I mean, maybe that's a very immature faith life that believes that God primarily exists just to make all of your dreams come true.
But I think it's pretty common.
Right. I think it is, until it's challenged in real life. Everybody knows that nobody would say that out loud, that was their belief system. And yet I think functionally a lot of us really do think.
Yeah, right. Well, and yeah. Sorry, I'm just, yes, I'm agreeing with you, because Western society also we as a group, we just kind of like, oh, let's push pain and discomfort away. But then when something bursts through, you're all of a sudden hit with that reality. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, who is God?
Right. Because we all think that a meaningful life is a pain-free life.
Yeah.
Like that is our current culture's way of processing, but it's certainly not scripture, and it's not even my experience. You see, I think that's the really beautiful thing underneath it, is when you start to experience doubt in the way that I have, I think I've discovered God to be incredibly faithful. You know, I've realized now that it's not really about the quality of my ability to believe. That isn't what makes me loved. It isn't what makes me a Christian even. What it is the faithfulness of God to call me and to continue to use me and to continue to draw me to himself. And he is good enough to show up and be faithful when we're faithless, you know, because anything else is to deny himself. That's how the scripture puts it.
Yeah. Wow. When you look at this collection of songs, like, if you just pictured them on a bookshelf, which would be the one that you would go to every day and pull off?
That's an interesting one. You know, I think it probably is the title track, Honest.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that probably distills everything that I was thinking into one tight package. I find myself coming back to that verse in scripture in particular. And even as I was singing today, there's something special about singing it from within the middle of kind of a struggle. You know, I was singing that right when I was experiencing kind of the worst sense of alienation from God and the darkest doubts. And now I'm kind of on the other side of that, and I'm in a much more positive space. But it's interesting. The song just means different things in different seasons to me. It's almost a cry of confidence at this point.
Well, it's fantastic. I really love the music video too. Was that a lot?
Well, that's a lot of counting.
Okay.
So yeah, the music video being a live thing.
It was. You did do it live, yeah? Okay. I didn't know if there was movie magic in there.
There's definitely lots of takes magic.
Yeah. Okay. That's intense. Wow.
Yeah. But it's interesting. You get so used to playing with the same group of people all the time that even reimagining how to present music is is difficult.
Yeah.
And yet it felt to me really important that this kind of music was presented truly solo, because that's the experience of writing it, and that's the experience that a lot of people have when they're going through seasons of doubt and difficulty. It feels lonely, and I kind of wanted artistically for it to always be presented that way. It's just one guy kind of trying to make it work.
Honestly, that's how a lot of us feel oftentimes, right?
Well, exactly.
Which is why the Trinity was created, right? God was like, we need community. Even God needs community.
Exactly.
So it's like, what are you doing out there by yourself? So, but that's an amazing visual too that I didn't think of in terms of the music video. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't use much in terms of very spare in terms of co-writing and things like that on the record, just to try to reflect that as well. So when I would get stuck, it was just, well, you're stuck. You need to find your way out of this. It's not Nashville where you can just call somebody up and meet somebody at 10:30 and have a song by 11:30.
Yeah.
You're going to have to sit with this and wrestle through it. And I think,
I
just wanted to kind of make that statement.
Well, I think you did an incredible job. When will we get to see this music out live?
Yeah, it's funny, we were talking about that in the car on the way here. I think it'll probably be next year, because Rend Collective's so busy. We got our Campfire 10th Avenue, not 10th Avenue North. That's a blast from the past. Yeah, actually, we've toured with them so many times. I think that just rolled off the tongue. But it's a 10th anniversary tour of our Campfire record. So we're doing that in the US this fall, and then in the UK in the spring. So I'll be a little bit after that for Chris Llewellyn to do his thing.
Yeah, but there will be space for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool, man. Well, thanks for just chatting with us a little bit about the music and sharing your heart. It's really a privilege to sit with you. So check it out, chrisllewellyn.com, and then the album is called Honest.